some football I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
And all the time.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man. I did it again. I did it again, man. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie too? And I did have some wine tonight, so maybe that is the cause for the slip up again. I did have a couple glasses of wine, man. After the game and the events of today, I needed a couple glasses to take the edge off. Nonetheless, who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football overtime. Bears, Vikings, NFC North, family business. You know how the family do it. And this was some good football. Let me start by saying that was impressive, okay? That was very impressive. And I said last week on the Lockdown Coverage podcast, you got to start believing in the Bears. And then I did a full 180 and said, hey, believe in the Bears, but they're going to lose this week against the Vikings. And so, shame on me. That was eye-opening right there. The Bears, I knew going into the game, they had the highest turnover margin in the league. They had been forcing turnovers. They hadn't been turning the football over themselves. I've watched this defense evolve and grow. I talked about Bryce Callahan last week and Eddie Jackson and Akeem Hicks, and now all these guys have impressed me this season. Well, you saw it tonight with your own eyes, and I talked about last week on the Lockdown Coverage podcast, which you can get via Google Music Play, Stitcher, iTunes, and, of course, the website, LouieTNetwork.net. I talked about how you're going to get to see the Bears the next 2 weeks on primetime television. So for those of you unfamiliar with what the Bears have been doing this season, who think they may be a fluke, who think the Bears aren't for real, you're going to get to see them on primetime television. Saw them tonight. You're going to see them again on Thanksgiving, the first of 3 games on Thanksgiving Day, 12:30 versus the Lions on the road. They've already beaten the Lions once this season at Soldier Field just a couple weeks ago where they harassed Matthew Stafford, turned them over a couple of times. They were up 26-7 in the first half of that game, ended up winning that game very comfortably. And so that's a football team right now in Chicago that I'm not only convinced that they're going to win that division, I'm convinced that they're going to do some damage when they get to the postseason because the way they play defense, first of all, Khalil Mack is worth 3 first-round picks, okay? Damn the 2 that they gave up to get him. The guy is worth every single cent he was paid, and the guy's worth every single pick that was given up to get him. And we'll see what the Raiders do with those first-round picks. But there's nothing better than making a trade like that and then having it pay dividends for you immediately. Not immediately, immediately. And then also saying, hey, take this big middle finger because that pick's going to end up being the 26th pick in the draft. That pick's going to be the 28th pick in the draft. So you have at it. Well, okay, with these 2 first-rounders, but we're going to make sure that they're at the back end of the first round, so you go ahead and have a good time with that. Unlike the Redskins when they traded for Robert Griffin III, and then they ended up stinking, and then those picks turned out to be top 5 picks. That's when you feel bad about giving up those first-rounders. But when you do what the Bears have done with that trade, and you turn that pick, or those picks, I should say, and they're getting 1 this year and 1 the following year, when you turn those first-rounders into late first-rounders, you feel damn good about what you've accomplished, not to mention the guy you got is pretty damn special in the prime of his career. That's why that trade was so good for the Bears, because I told you, he's going to amplify all the guys around him. So now all of a sudden, Gumby looks much better for you. Those of you unaware, Gumby is Leonard Floyd. Akeem Hicks is going to ball out, and people are going to notice him more because now you can't double up Akeem Hicks. Hell, on one play late in the game, in a crucial 3rd down, they didn't even block him. And that was a simple, failed protection by the Vikings. That wasn't anything Akeem Hicks did special. They just didn't block him. And so you're starting to see some, and again, a lot of the attention probably on that play was probably on who do you think? You guessed it, Midway Mac. And so when you see the way that the attention is being paid to him, it's allowing other guys to flourish. You're starting to see the speed of this defense show up. Eddie Jackson with the pick 6. You're seeing Roquan Smith fly around the football field. I've been so impressed with the totality of this Bears defense, how they move as one unit. They're a smart football team. Conversely, the Vikings aren't smart on the defensive side. How many dumb penalties did they pick up tonight? I mean, It sickens me to watch teams get late hits out of bounds, to get hits on quarterbacks that are sliding. Just stupid, foolish, self-inflicted. If they don't get that Harrison Smith penalty on the hit on the quarterback late in the game, I don't think they're able to get into field goal range to get the field goal that ultimately pushed this game out of reach and put Cody Parkey in a position to get a 48-yarder to put this game on ice, essentially. You don't get that opportunity. It's 14-22 still. You get the football back, most likely. They have to punt. Yeah, Kirk is probably going to have to take you 90-some-odd yards and then convert a two-point conversion, which right now, I'm a Kirk Cousins fan. You know this. But watching him right now, he seems incapable of doing things in clutch, pressure-packed situations. I thought early on in the season he was phenomenal versus Green Bay on the road and in some of those situations where back against the wall, got to have it against the Rams when the defense couldn't get a stop, couldn't buy a stop. The defense was terrible early in the season. I thought he was tremendous in those games. Game on the line, yeah, he fumbled late in the Rams game. I understand that, but I didn't think that was personally his fault. Yeah, and Kirk fumbles the football. We know this to be a fact. Kirk gets balls batted at the line of scrimmage. We know this to be a fact. But I think right now, Kirk has a mental block. I think there are situations where you put him in some clutch, pressure-packed situations, and he will come through for you sometimes, but he's going to make some mistakes. Tonight, that interception, you can't have that throw. The pressure wasn't on him imminently on that particular play. I just think he was feeling the pressure that was there all night. They had pressure on him. He was flushed out of the pocket numerous times. He was hit on a number of occasions. I just think he felt the pressure there and made a throw that just sailed on him, and it really cost his team. That pick six was back-breaking tonight, similar to the pick six he threw versus the Saints. That one wasn't his fault, but nonetheless, it's a pick six that you just can't have on primetime television that hurts you. And so we've seen that from Kirk too many times this year where he makes a mistake in a critical situation. I still love the guy, still think he's one of the better quarterbacks in this league that, once you get out of the elite group, you get to that next tier. I think Kirk Cousins is in that tier, but you can't make the mistakes that they made tonight. You can't have the self-inflicted wounds. You can't have the penalties. You can't have the turnovers. You can't have those mistakes on the road. And this Bears defense is really good. And the offense, I thought they did just enough. They weren't awesome tonight. I thought they were better early than they were late, especially in the first half. I thought they were exceptional. They really had the Vikings head spinning with all the misdirection. I thought they had them on their heels, and they didn't take full advantage of those opportunities because they could have scored more points in the first half. They had to settle for field goals. Give the Vikings defense credit for that. But at the same time, you look at this game in the second half, I thought it was role reversal for about a good quarter and a half. I thought the Vikings had every opportunity. They forced the turnover and the fumble of Tariq Cohen. They got the pick of Trubisky. They had opportunities in the second half of this game, and they just couldn't do anything offensively. I thought the defense stepped up in the second half and made some plays. And unfortunately for them, the offense just didn't take full advantage of all the opportunities that were afforded to them. I thought the key turning point in this game is the fumble forced by this Vikings defense. Tariq Cohen coughs it up, and Harrison Ford, Dirty Harry, able to land on that football and give them a great field position. You have got to get 7 off of that. Some way, somehow, you have to come away with a touchdown there. You cannot settle for a field goal. They settled for a field goal, and for me, that was the turning point of this game because the Bears, they weren't effing around. You saw that. They scored a touchdown. They're going for 2. No reason to go for 2 other than we can, and they converted not once but twice. That's the aggressive mindset that Matt Nagy got from Kansas City with Andy Reid. These new coaches, this new day and age in the NFL, they don't give a shit. These analytic guys are getting in their ear and telling them, look, you're much better going for 2 than you are kicking an extra point. And these guys are buying in, and you're seeing more teams than ever just go for 2 just for the hell of it. Just for the smell of it. For the smell I get. I mean, goddamn. This was unnecessary 2-point conversions. They didn't need to go for 2 in this game either time. Hell, it was 3-0 when they scored the first touchdown, and they said, hell, go for 2. No, go for 2. And now it's 11-0. I'm like, bruh, why? And they said, because we can't. Why not? You know what? Why not is the new motto in the league. Why are you going for 2? Why not? I don't know. I don't understand it, but it works. And it worked to perfection tonight because those 2-point conversions put more stress on the Minnesota Vikings tonight, and it really made this game feel like it was out of reach. Even though they were only down 2 scores, you knew you needed not only 2 scores, but you needed 2 2-point conversions as well. So even if you scored the touchdowns, without the 2-point conversions, you still were going to lose this football game. Big game by the Chicago Bears. This was a statement game. I like I said, last week for me was impressive versus Detroit. This week was even more impressive because the opponent was much better in the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings were coming off a bye week. They had 2 weeks to prepare, and the Bears were simply just better. They were the better football team. The defense was hungrier. The offense executed better, and I really feel like the Vikings are a team that has a chance to make the playoffs as a wild card, but I don't think they're going to win this division. I am not confident in the Vikings' ability to win big-time games against some of the better teams in this league. I just don't see them being able to get that done. And then you look at what they put up on the board in terms of schedule. They've got the hardest schedule remaining. The Packers have the easiest schedule, and the Bears have like the 15th easiest schedule or whatever it is. So bottom line is, you're facing an uphill battle if you're the Minnesota Vikings. And that's what you get for winning the division. Nobody's crying over spilt milk. You still can find a way back into this thing. You're not out of it. You got this Bears team one more time. They got to come to you. Much like next week, Green Bay has to come to you. You have to take care of business at home. You have to start winning games in the division. You took care of Detroit already. You tied with the Packers once. You lost this game. You've got 3 more games in the division. You've got to take care of all 3 of them, 2 of which are at the crib. You've got the Lions on the road. You've got to find a way to probably win all 3 of those if you want to have any shot at winning this division. And it's very possible. I think it's something that is very realistic for you. I think you have the ability to get it done, but it's going to take better effort out of your offense. Your offense can't be sluggish. I wanted to see Chad Beebe more tonight. I thought he was so impressive versus Detroit a couple of weeks ago before the bye week, and we didn't see him until the 4th quarter, literally the end of the game. I thought he could have helped you tonight in the slot. I didn't think that that was good strategy by the Minnesota Vikings. The run game was non-existent. It's been non-existent for much of this season. That's a problem because, again, I told you when you got Kirk Cousins, there were a few things that you had to make sure you got done in advance of Kirk's arrival. 1, have a defense. Kirk is not capable of putting a team on his back and winning football games. 2, have a run game. Kirk did not sign up to put a team on his back and win you football games. You haven't done that for the whole entire season. Your defense just started stepping up about a month ago. Your run game has been inconsistent as inconsistent gets. There was no help from the run game tonight. The defense, I thought, stepped up. It just wasn't enough because the offense didn't show up. And that's been the story of the season for the Vikings, especially against the better teams in the league. They can't seem to get a full team effort where all 3 phases show up and give them the best effort that they possibly can give. 1 week it's the offense carrying the heavy load. 1 week it's the defense shouldering the burden. And there's another week where the special team steps up and makes some plays. Albeit, this is a Vikings team that we've seen in the past be able to put things together late in the season, get on a hot streak, get on a run, and make things happen. This team just feels different. I don't know what it is. It's similar to Philadelphia, except you're going to potentially still make the playoffs. The Eagles are not. I feel like it's a different vibe in Minnesota, and I think it starts at the quarterback position, which is crazy as it seems. Kirk is an upgrade over Case Keenum, but it seemed like Case Keenum did exactly what you needed him to do for you last year. He didn't turn it over that much, which is out of the ordinary for Case Keenum because generally he does turn it over. But Case Keenum seemed to come up big in every single spot, whether it was he needed to use his legs on a 3rd and 4 to pick up 5 and move the sticks, or he needed to find someone, escape the pocket, create just enough time, get the football to somebody that's kind of improvising with him, and all of a sudden, I remember that Atlanta game last year that comes to mind where I say, damn, Case Keenum did some special things in that game, and it was only like a 13-12 game or 15-10 game, something crazy like that, low scoring, but Case Keenum made every single play, and it seems like Kirk isn't making those plays. I'll give you an example in this game. There's a 3rd and 1. And Kirk could have easily just ran for about 8 and slid and got the first down. Now, ultimately, you ended up converting that. You went for it on 4th down. And you end up converting that 4th down. But it's besides the point. It was 3rd and 1. All Kirk had to do was tuck it and run. He would have gotten an easy 8 yards, maybe even more, because everyone was in man-to-man. Everyone was bailing. Back turned to him. And instead, he decides to throw it to, and I've seen this, my fair share of times when he was in Washington where guy is covered, Kirk thinks he can fit it in, and instead of him taking the available 10 yards that's right in front of him, he decides to try to fit it into a tight window. He didn't get it to Diggs there. The defender was able to knock it away. And all of a sudden now you're left with 4th and 1. Now, again, you did convert, but he could have put all that to bed. He could have run for the first down. And that's the play that Case Keenum made last year for you. He was making those plays for you. He wasn't putting you in situations that were very compromising. And so it just feels different. Similar to Philadelphia, it feels different. And it starts with the quarterback position. It starts the run game wasn't great last year, but it was more consistent. You knew what you were getting from week to week. You can't say that this year. It's a lot of things, but it's just hard to pinpoint the one thing that's really stopping this Vikings team. Meanwhile, for the Bears, this is as impressive as it gets. They go out, dominant defensive performance where they forced 3 turnovers in this game. You look at the offense, like I said, it wasn't pretty on the offensive side of the football. Mitchell Trubisky didn't light us on fire. The run game wasn't that extravagant, but it was a collective effort, something the Vikings have lacked this season. Special teams, and it was a lot made of Cody Parkey, and I'm guilty. I talked about Cody Parkey and how if you're one of these teams like the Bears, like the Chargers, that's in the midst of a race that you're trying to get into the postseason, you do not need any kicking issues. You need to nip it in the bud before it starts. And if a guy like Giorgio Tavecchio is out there that hasn't missed this season, maybe you need to go get him. Now that Matt Bryan is back in Atlanta, Giorgio Tavecchio's on the street. If I'm a team in need of a kicker, that's the guy I'm calling. And I said, hey, Bears, don't hesitate to pick up that phone and bring in Giorgio Tavecchio for a workout. You like what you see, go ahead and sign him. And they stuck with their guy. They stuck with their guns, similar to what Green Bay did with Mason Crosby, although Crosby has a better track record and a much better footing in Green Bay. He's kicked for them longer. They trust him more. So he got a reprieve, and he's been able to make the best of it. Meanwhile, Parkey has been a journeyman kicker since coming into the league, and nothing's really concrete for him in Chicago. And there was a lot made of him hitting the goalpost and the upright 4 times. I made a lot of it. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And he came into this game, and you could tell they were a little nervous. He was a little nervous, but he banged all of his field goals and extra points right through the uprights. And so, all his field goals. They didn't even kick any extra points in this game, but he banged all of his field goals right through the uprights. And that it's a total team effort. Special teams stepped up, defense stepped up, offense stepped up, and that's how you win games in this league against quality opponents. You need all of your, or at least 2 of the 3 phases of the game to step up to the table and win for you. The Bears, I thought, won in all 3 phases tonight. Mack was exceptional. Akeem Hicks was exceptional. Eddie Jackson with a big-time play. They were all over the field defensively. Kyle Fuller continues to have a stellar season. You look at what they're doing offensively, and I don't recall Trubisky getting sacked all night. And this was a Vikings team that had been putting a ton of pressure on quarterbacks. They just sacked Matthew Stafford 10 times. Daniil Hunter had 3.5 sacks. I don't recall Mitchell Trubisky getting sacked at all tonight. And credit Trubisky for having the wheels to get out of trouble, get out of Dodge, and take a 3-yard sack and turn it into a 7-yard gain. Or take a 7-yard sack and turn it into a 3-yard gain. He used his legs very well, really hurt the Vikings a couple of times where they thought they had Mitchell Trubisky bottled up, and he somehow got away and was able to turn it into a positive game. So, again, the Bears did just enough on offense. The defense was exceptional. Special teams did what they needed to do, and your end result is a 25-20 win, and you've got to feel really good about what the Bears brought to the table in this football game. And I expect them to go to Detroit on Thanksgiving and beat those boys down and get to 8-3. And at that point, you've got to say that the Bears are the clear-cut runaway favorite in the NFC North division. Unless they slip up over the next couple of games, this Bears team looks like they're going to win this division. And again, it's crazy because I remember sitting in this very seat having this same conversation with all of you about who would win this division. And there were a handful of you out there that said the Bears are going to win the division. I poo-pooed you guys. I said, you guys are crazy. That's too premature. I like this Bears football team. I like what I've seen out of Matt Nagy, but they're not winning this division. They're not ready. Not with the likes of Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Not with the likes of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Not even with the likes of Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions. They got the 4th best quarterback in the division. There's no way they're ready to step up and win right now. And that was a lie. They're this year's Los Angeles Rams. That's what the Bears are. First-year head coach comes in, takes a second-year quarterback, turns him into something more than what everybody thought he was going to be, takes that offense, makes it his own. They go out, spend a bunch of money and resources on guys in the draft and free agency, similar to what the Rams did last year with Sean McVay, where they went out, revamped, and overhauled that entire offense. You've seen the Bears do the same exact thing. You got the first-year head coach, the second-year quarterback. It looks eerily similar. The defense has come alive. You make a trade for a big-time guy that comes in and helps you, similar to the Rams. It all seems to be coming together. It looks eerily similar, like I said, to the Rams from last year. And I'll take it a step further. If they make it to the postseason, they may do the same thing the Rams did and bow out in the first round, but they're making that stride, that step that you need to make in order to, and that's why I try to tell Redskins fans too, it's a process. You can't just jump in and think you're going to have one of those magical 2008 seasons like the Cardinals had, make it all the way to the Super Bowl. That's not sustainable, okay? What the Bears are doing right now, what the Rams are doing, that's sustainable. When you put together a young nucleus with a quarterback that's on a rookie contract and you surround him with a bunch of young talent and you get the defense roaring and you get all these young pieces at receiver and running back and you get all of these guys around him, the tight end position, and everything is kind of clicking. This is how you sustain winning for a 3 to 7 year stretch. Look at what Seattle did. That's the model. That's the model that everyone's following. What the Seahawks did with Russell Wilson. You get a young quarterback on a rookie contract and you surround him with talent and you pay all of your veterans and you keep that party going for as long as you possibly can. The reason Seattle's party ended a little bit prematurely is because Russell Wilson wasn't a first-round pick. You would much rather do this with a first-round pick because you get the fifth-year option, so that gives you another year of not having to pay your quarterback. That gives you another year of having that window open and signing guys before you're going to have to cough up the big bucks to your young, budding star at the quarterback position. The Bears are in a prime position to really be good for the next few years if they're able to stay healthy and they're able to keep this same formula going. This is an exciting time in Chicago. I've talked to a number of Bears fans. They are ecstatic about what's going on right now, and I'm happy for them. This is a lot of fun to watch. The Bears are maturing right before our very eyes, and they're not messing around. They're here to stay, and tonight was a big statement for the Bears as they get it done 25-20 over the Minnesota Vikings. Let's get to your comments. And Redskins fans, we're not going to turn this into a Redskins show. So if you're going to ask me a bunch of Redskins questions, I'm not going to answer them. I'm thinking I might do something either tomorrow. If I have time, if I get home from work early enough, I may do something tomorrow where I just jump on for maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, chop it up with you guys. I want to get more information about the fallout from the Alex Smith situation, what the mindset of the team is. So I need to hear everybody speak, kind of gather my thoughts a little bit, because I'm going to tell you right now, I feel a lot differently after watching him play today and seeing how the offense went. I feel a little bit different than I did when he initially was thrust into the lineup. But we'll talk about that. Again, this is Bears Vikings. I don't want to hijack their show. Talking Redskins football. So I may do something. I may not. We'll see. I can't guarantee you anything, but what I know I'm going to do is not allow this to turn into a Redskins show. I do know that. Derek B says, it's uncanny how Cousins can play like trash for 3 quarters, then turn into Drew Brees when his team is down 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter with the pressure off. I had an eerie sense of deja vu. Hey, we know what Kirk Cousins is about. You know I'm a Kirk fan, but goddamn, he makes it so hard when he does the things that he does to defend him. And that interception, that pick six, that was brutal. That was just god awful. You can't do that. And like I said, the pressure wasn't bearing down on him to the point where that throw had to sail. That ball just got away from him. You can't make that mistake at that point of the game when your defense keeps giving you opportunities. You can't make that mistake. Silver V says, now do you believe that the Bears are going to win the NFC North and that someone should kick Ron off the riverboat in Carolina? LOL. Yeah, I do believe that. I just pretty much said that, but I do believe in the Bears now as a true contender to not only win this division, but maybe even make a little bit of noise when they get to the postseason. The way they play defense, that's going to give people problems. Khalil Mack is a problem. He's a guy you have to game plan for. It just changes the dynamics when you got an elite rusher. That makes your defense that much better, and Khalil Mack is a problem. Ed says, this is a great team win from my Bears. Hashtag bear down. Absolutely. JP says, damn it, Louie, you did it again. I'm coming to take your wine away now. Hey, man, that's 2 weeks in a row. I'm tripping, I know. But last time, that was just an honest mistake. Tonight, it might have been the wine. Anyway, Black L.A.B. says, what it do, Lou? I got nothing to say about the Vikes. Nephewed. LOL. As usual, they can't do shit on primetime. May there be a correlation there. I don't know, man. I hate to say it about my guy, but it may be. FBG Tony says, the Bears smacked Captain Kirk around, forced turnovers, and shut the run down completely. Yes, they did. Mitch also looked solid. He was solid. He was exactly that in this game. He didn't really do anything to hurt his team, although he did have 2 interceptions. But they didn't prove to be overly costly in this game. But, again, against a better team, maybe those 2 interceptions do turn the tide in the game. So he's got to get better care of the football. But, again, I thought he did really well in situations where he had to use his legs to extend plays and get out of the pocket and make things happen with his legs. And that's going to hurt some teams. And that breaks the spirit of a defensive unit when they got the right coverage call, they got everything set up perfectly, and then the quarterback takes off and runs. It's demoralizing. I got Munson says, very much like how Chicago is building this squad. Having said that, I don't see how any team comes out of the NFC except for the Rams or the Saints. I don't disagree with that because you're going to have to either go through L.A. or New Orleans. The Rams, I could see somebody, clipping their wings. I could see somebody getting the Rams. It's the Saints where if you got to go to New Orleans, I just don't see how you stop that juggernaut right now. I just don't see, unless something catastrophic happens to the Saints, I just don't see how you stop that party from continuing to roll on in New Orleans. They're just playing at a different level right now. Ed says, I got to give thanks to John Gruden for Khalil Mack. You should. And I told you guys that you were getting a steal when this trade was made. It's amazing that they did. I still almost can't wrap my brain around the fact that they made that trade. It was a very foolish trade, but you guys are the benefactors of that trade. Black L.A.B. says, there's no words for the Herd concert I witnessed on Friday. Got to give that part 2 a re-listen because she killed those tracks live. Hashtag her forever. I don't think it's a way for me to feel that. Maybe I do need to go back and give it another listen, but that's not what I came to the party to. When she made me fall in love with her music, it didn't sound like that. So maybe I do need to give it a re-listen. But I'm telling you, right now, I know what my ears heard, and I'm generally a guy that I hear something once, and I know if I like it immediately. Certain things do have better replay value. You go back, you listen to it, it sounds better. But for me, that was off for me. I don't think I'm gonna like it, no matter how many times I play it. But I'm glad you enjoyed the concert, bro. I really do. Ed says, I feel like we make the playoffs. We can be dangerous, and I'm happy for Cody Parkey. I'm happy for him too. It's crazy because I picked the Vikings to win. I got another upset wrong. This loss put me out of the football pool for the week, so that sucks. But that last field goal, I actually wanted him to make it. It was crazy because if he made it, I was going to lose the game. If he missed it, I was going to have a shot for the Vikings to go down and tie it. And I was like, man, I really want Cody Parkey to make this field goal. And I needed him to miss. And generally, I don't get emotionally attached to guys, but I was like, you can tell he really, really wanted the opportunity to, first of all, kick it, because you could tell that Matt Nagy was thinking, man, I don't even know if I should send his ass out there because, for all of the goodwill he's done tonight with his kicks, if he misses this one kick, he will undo all of the goodwill he's done. I don't know if I want to damage his psyche, but I think it would have done even more damage to his psyche had he not sent him out there. That sends a message that you don't trust me to put this game away for you. And it's only 48 yards. It's not like this kick was from 55, like what we've seen the Falcons do a couple of times this year where they're kicking bombs to put the game away, and if they miss, the other team's going to get great field position. No, that's not what this was. 48 yards. You should be able to kick that in this league. No problems. Every kicker in this league, if you're on one of the 32 teams, you should be able to bang home a 48-yard field goal, no problems. And so I was like, you got to send him out there for that. And he did, and he knocked it home. FBG Tony says, the Bears are scary. Mad scary. They have pass rushers out the ass. Hicks, Mack, Floyd, Smith. Like, damn, can you donate one to the Skins? Sheesh. Man, it's amazing when you watch a team with the amount of pass rushers that the Bears can throw at you with Hicks and Mack just alone. Those two are dominant. And then you throw in Gumby, and all of a sudden now it just takes them over the top. And so they've got a really good situation right now in Chicago, especially on the defensive side of the football. And yes, someone said Rhodes could have had a pick six. It's amazing how everybody just says he would have scored on that. I don't know if Allen Robinson is able to clip his ankle or something, or if somebody might have had an angle. He might have scored on that, but Xavier Rhodes has never had great hands. That's never been his strong suit. So it didn't shock me that he dropped that football. But those are the kind of opportunities that you can't afford to miss. You know, you want to win this game. You want to pick up your offense that's struggling. Make that pick. You know, even if it's not a pick six, even if it's inside the Bears' 20-yard line, set them up. You know, and you did that with the fumble, and they didn't take advantage. But you got to keep trying to give them every opportunity to score. And so that was rough. The 20th Mike says, Kirk playing the same way he did in Washington. As much as it pains me to say, kind of, yeah. I think he actually played better in Washington of late. Early in the season, I thought he was playing at a different level, different than he played in Washington. Right now, I'd even say about the last month or so, he's played like he played in Washington. The mistakes are very plentiful. They're at inopportune times. Yeah, I would agree with that statement for the most part. Michael Thompson says, Sean Payton is a savage, man. Man went for it on 4th and 7, and it was 4th and 7 in a game that was like 38-7. He's an absolute savage. Absolute savagery at its finest. I mean, I was over there telling Sean, man, if you don't stomp a mud hole in their ass, I mean, absolutely put work on these boys. And he did. He did it for sure. I got Munson says, how did you feel about Treadwell coming out? At least Doxson makes a few positive plays here and there, LOL. I didn't like Laquan Treadwell coming out. I knew he was physical. I thought he could catch. I didn't think he was athletic at all. I knew he was physical in the run game, could block, but I wasn't impressed with Laquan Treadwell coming out. That was a really weak wide receiver draft class. Even Josh Doxson, who I thought was the best receiver in that class, I didn't really think much of him as a first-round pick. I thought he was a good receiver. I thought the guy that had the most potential was Will Fuller, but even I didn't think he was a first-round pick either. I just knew he was extremely fast. Again, I'm a Notre Dame fan. He went to Notre Dame. I knew the big play potential with Will Fuller, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. That's been his biggest problem in the league. When he's healthy, he's a problem. But that draft, that entire receiver draft, I think that was the one with Michael Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. He's been the cream of the crop in that draft at the receiver position. Black LB says, sorry about Alex. Think y'all might pick up Cap? Hell no. I already tweeted out the guys that the Redskins are bringing in. Dirty Chaz, Tyler Jonathan Yates, and also they're bringing in E.J. Manuel. If I had to guess, out of those three, they would probably sign Dirty Chaz, if I had to guess. Well-traveled, understands NFL offenses, good guy in the locker room. I think Dirty Chaz is going to be the guy. The only guy that it would shock me if they brought in and signed, it would be E.J. Manuel. Even though I've watched E.J., he settled down a bit, but I don't want E.J. Manuel on the field. I don't want Dirty Chaz on the field. I don't want T.J. Yates on the field. But at this point, we just got to pray that what's his name? Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt. It won't be Cap. I can assure you of that. Derek B says, Lou looking forward to his bye week. You damn straight I am. Let's see. FBG Tony says, Kirk has been inconsistent in the clutch his whole career. He'll go 80 yards against the A-team for a game-winning touchdown drive. Then he'll mess around and throw a pick six in clutch moments. That's Kirk Cousins for you. I mean, he did it against Green Bay early in the season where moved him right down the field. And it's crazy because right before that, remember, there was the really bad roughing the passer penalty on Clay Matthews, or else he would have thrown a pick, and that game would have been over. But instead, he gets second life. He takes his team down the field. They score a touchdown, and he converts to two-point conversion, sends the game to overtime. And he took his team down the field a couple of times in overtime, put them in positions to win. Field goal kicker choked and missed. Daniel Carlson, and voila, you get a tie. So you see the good and you see the bad with Kirk. And it's been more bad than good of late, though. especially in these late season stretches. John Perez says, why are the Bears wearing those orange uniforms? They look like damn traffic cones with legs. I actually like those uniforms, so I disagree with you. I like it a lot. Black L.A.B says, I'm done with the Treadwell experiment. Aldrick Robinson and Chad Beebe are better, hands down. Got to get them more playing time. Aldrick Robinson has been outstanding when given opportunities. Him and Kirk have a rapport going back to their Redskin days together. And Chad Beebe, I thought, was exceptional versus the Lions. I thought I would see him a ton tonight. I was really looking forward to watching him. We didn't see him until the final drive of the game. I'm like, what the hell is going on out there? So, yeah, I think Treadwell, they need to go. You know, no one wants to admit they effed up a first-round pick, but at this point, you cut your losses and you just move on. You got other guys that are better, that are playing better, that need more reps. Treadwell is taking some reps that guys could really make more use of. He's just got to go. He's in the way. Likely Phenomenon says, what's good, Lou? Sad to hear about Alex. I know, as always, hate to see a guy go down. Hashtag my Lions got a huge win. That they did. John Perez says, is it time to declare Laquan Treadwell and Trey Waynes bust? I wouldn't throw Waynes in that conversation. He is inconsistent, but he is not on the same level as a Laquan Treadwell. Reese says, Lou, I'm exhausted watching this team. There's still 6 games left. Football season usually flies by for me, but this one is lingering. Feels like an off-season of sorts. I hear you, Ree. I've been there. Last year was that kind of year for me where you just kind of wanted it to be over. You limped to the finish line. But like I said, that's where me being a football fan first kicks in. And even though my team stinks, I just enjoy football for what it is. I enjoy the rest of the league for what it is. So maybe you need to do that, Ree. Maybe you need to just realize that your team stinks and that this is not a good season for them and that you're going to clean house and that you're going to start anew. And maybe you need to just enjoy the rest of the league for what it is and just take that in stride and be happy that football is on your television on Sunday and will be for the next few Sundays or next 2 months worth of Sundays before you're without football. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. FBG Tony says, is it time to say the Vikings are a worse team than in 2017? Yeah, I think I made that statement tonight. That's pretty much what I was trying to say about them and the Eagles, that you can kind of see the difference in these teams this year. And you can't quite put your finger on what's wrong exactly, but you know it's not the same. What you're looking at doesn't resemble the team that you saw a season ago. Those two teams that met in the NFC Championship game look nothing like the teams we saw a season ago. Reese says, sorry about Alex Smith. That's a tough deal. I mean, it's football. Shit happens. You know, I feel bad for him as well. He's a good dude. And he was going to lead us to a division crown. Whether it was going to be pretty and fun for Redskins fans that wanted to see more offense, he was going to lead us to the division this year. And that injury, we're going to find out. Maybe Colt McCoy comes in. I've got this vibe now, this feel that Colt McCoy may be able to come in and give us this kind of Nicholas Foles type of spark. Everyone's going to doubt us now. Everyone's going to probably expect us to lose to Dallas. I think we can win that goddamn game now. I really feel confident about that. So we'll see what happens. Black L.A.B says the loss of Pat Shurmur was huge. I agree with that too. I think sometimes we don't give these offensive coordinators enough credit. When they're gone, their impact. I thought that John DeFilippo would be better. I'm so disappointed. The lack of diversity in what he's bringing to the table. I thought you were going to get a flavor of what the Eagles were doing. I thought you were going to get a semblance of that. He's been really bland. Just seems like a regular offensive coordinator, like a guy you could dime a dozen dude. Like, he doesn't seem special to me. I thought he was going to be special. I was so excited for him to get this opportunity because of what he was in Philadelphia for Carson Wentz. And the maturation that Wentz showed, and a lot of that credit went to DeFilippo. So I was expecting him to come over. Eagles were so dynamic, and they were so diverse, and they were so creative. I thought we were going to see a lot of that, similar to the Bears. Matt Nagy is so creative because he came from Kansas City with Andy Reid. And so I thought we were going to see a lot of that in Minnesota, and we're just not. It's a very bland offense, and I think Pat Shurmur is truly missed in Minnesota. Black L.A.B says, I'm about to be done with Cook, too. If he ain't hurt all the damn time, he's fumbling at crucial moments. That was his problem at Florida State. Like, people tend to forget what these players do in college because they get excited. He was a fumbler at Florida State. That's what he did there, too. That was one of his knocks coming into the league, is that Dalvin Cook will fumble the football. And the injury thing just cropped up. He wasn't as injured at Florida State, but he was fumbling the damn football. So it's not a surprise to me. It's not a surprise at all. Let's see. J. Cam Man says, sorry, but Kirk Cousins is average at best. He's so lucky to have gotten that $84 million contract, right place, right time. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. That's why the Redskins didn't re-sign him. He's not worth $84 million. We knew that, but at the same time, he was worth what he was asking for back in 2015 when we could have paid him, and that would have been a great deal. He would still been in Washington, and we would have been a better football team because of it. Instead, they didn't give him what he was looking for then. And the situation got out of hand, and that's why he ended up with $84 million. Like you said, right place, right time. I'm not mad at him for cashing in. He's better than average. The problem is this team, when he got there, he thought he was going to walk into a tailor-made situation. And what he got was dysfunction from this Vikings organization. The defense wasn't as good as he thought it was going to be when the season started. They've since gotten their act together for the most part, but it really put a sense of I've got to be better than I thought I was going to have to be when I got here. He thought he was going to have a run game. Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray have not been what he thought he was walking into. He thought he was walking into a very consistent run game. That hasn't been the case. And so it's morphed into this situation where, yep, your skill guys are exceptional in Thielen and Diggs and Rudolph, but outside of that, you're stuck. You're in another situation like the Redskins where you've got to put the team on your back. And Kirk Cousins, I've said this before, I'll say it again, that's not what this guy is about. FBG Tony says, bro, I'm a huge Kirk supporter, but he has to be more consistent in clutch situations. Agree with your point about the Minnesota run game. It's the Minnesota Redskins. Kirk is back at square one. And that's what I think essentially is hurting him, is that he signed up for something totally different. And what he's getting is another version of what he came from. And that's unfortunate for him because he thought he was walking into a situation that he just had to be the piece to put him over the top. And they've kind of regressed this year, and it's made him have to work harder than he thought he was going to. Look, when they're paying you $84 million, no one wants to hear about you wanting to work less. You got to go out and earn your paycheck, but he's making the same mistakes he made in Washington. I think it's a byproduct of him pushing the envelope a little bit too much because that's a little bit out of his game. He's not a guy that you want to put the game on his shoulders and say, go win it for us, even though he is capable of doing so. JP says, I've seen a lot of, just skipped a lot of comments, and let's see what time we got, 14 minutes left. JP says, I've seen a lot of Chiefs fans celebrate Alex's injury. One guy even said good riddance. Yeah, that's unfortunate. If you've got sour grapes to the point where you're applauding a man breaking his leg, then what kind of a person are you? You're an animal. You're a monster. Even if you don't like a guy, you don't want to see that happen to him. He's never done anything to you personally, so you shouldn't want to see any person or any physical harm come to another person. I can never understand it, but some people are irrational that way. Reese says, hey Lou, remember when I said we were minus 19 in the turnover differential? You were flabbergasted. Well, after this game, we now sit at minus 23. That is insane. That's losing football. You're lucky to even be 3-7 with that kind of turnover differential. That is insane. Silver V says, last year, Vikings killed teams with the run game, even without Cooks. What gives? Is there new or injured players on their O-line? They're a little bit more banged up than they were last year, but bottom line is the run game wasn't that great last year either. It was just consistent. You knew they were going to run it 30 times, even though that 30 was only going to produce 99 yards. You knew they were going to run it for 99 yards, and they were going to run it 30 times, and they were going to run for that same 3.3 average. You knew that was coming. You knew what you were getting out of the Vikings. That's not the case this year. 1 week, Latavius Murray could have a nice, solid game, give you 15 carries for 84 yards, and you feel good about the run game that day, and then the next 2 weeks, Murray may only get 5 carries total. I mean, how many carries did he get tonight? Maybe 3 or 4 max. And what did that yield him? And then you look at Cook, 9 carries, 12 yards. I mean, what am I supposed to do with that? That's trash. So it's a combination of a lot of different things. Like I said, a lot of that credit that you saw from the run game last year goes to the play calling. Give credit to Pat Shurmur for scheming up runs, for putting them in situations where you had to respect the quarterback as a run threat, and so it opened up some more rush lanes. This year, they're so vanilla, and that's what I talked about earlier with John DeFilippo. I have not been impressed with him as a play caller this year at all. J. Cam Man said, who's the third string quarterback for the Redskins? Is he any good? We don't have a third string quarterback. As most teams in this league, we don't carry 3 quarterbacks. So that's why we're out on the streets looking for help right now. Double A says, that Miller TD was BS. No, it wasn't. It was a touchdown. Now, it may have been BS because you're upset that he caught it and that he got out of the pocket, did Trubisky extend the play, and somehow Miller came up with it. But that was a touchdown. That was a catch. J. Caman says, do you think the Bills will get their revenge on the Jags this upcoming week? It's possible. I wouldn't hold my breath. But that loss today versus Pittsburgh for Jacksonville was backbreaking. That's the kind that if you were going to fight the remainder of the season, like Denver did today, beating the Chargers, if you're going to fight, that's the one you got to get. That loss right there could send the Jaguars into a spiraling tizzy, and you could see guys like Jalen Ramsey shut it down, and you could see him ultimately being traded. A report came out that he was on the block. The Jaguars refuted that, but I know he's rubbing some people in that organization the wrong way with his mouth. He talks a lot, and when you're losing, that situation gets old quick. When you're winning, hey, that's Jalen being Jalen. Everybody's excited, and you're willing to look the other way. You start losing, that shit gets annoying quick, and so I can tell that they're getting tired of his antics, not just in the locker room, but as an organization. I think they're getting tired of his antics, and it wouldn't shock me that after the Steelers loss, he starts to sound off. Guys get frustrated because that's the kind of loss that this just destroys your locker room. That's a backbreaking. They had every opportunity to win that football game and couldn't put it away. Derek B says, $28 million per. Kirk is getting paid to put a team on his back. Other QBs in that price range do it on a regular. Again, I'm not denying that. What I'm trying to tell you is that Kirk isn't worth that kind of money. That's why the Redskins didn't want to pay it to him. I'm not disputing that. That kind of money, you are supposed to be able to lead your team to victory whenever the hell they need it. I'm not disputing that. What I'm telling you is that's not Kirk Cousins. It's not in his DNA. It's not what he's supposed to be doing. And the fact that he's getting $28 million per year is just like J. Camman said. Right time, right place. He was able to cash in. But make no mistake about it. That's not what Kirk Cousins is about. But the Vikings either had to cough up the $84 million or somebody else was going to do it. So they were put in a position where they had a gun to their head and they made the choice to give Kirk the money. I'm not mad at them for doing that because everyone thought that move made the Vikings Super Bowl contenders. And right now, it's not just him. It's everyone on that football team that needs to collectively look in the mirror and say, what can I do better to help this team win? But Kirk needs to make sure that he looks in the mirror and realizes he's got to stop turning the damn football over. J. Camman says, I was upset that the Football in America pregame show didn't show the Dustin Hopkins attempt. I'm sorry, but I think that was a good attempt, not just enough leg. Well, yeah, it was straight enough. It was online, and he just didn't have the leg for it. And I knew that. That's why I was so disappointed in the Redskins' inability to get 5 more yards. They were so concerned with getting out of bounds. 19 seconds is enough time for you to throw the football over the middle of the field, get the necessary yardage. I wasn't looking for them to go 10 yards down the field. That may have been a little too far to then spike it and get the field goal unit on the field. But to go 5 or 6 more yards up the field, quick 5 yards, throw it to the guy, run up, spike the football, I think they would have had enough time, and then that field goal would have been good. It would have been good, and the Redskins would have got out of there with a 24-23 victory. So a little disappointed that they felt the need to try to work the sidelines and not just take what the Texans was going to give up, which was anything over the middle of the field. And yeah, they would have tried to lay on them and maybe even gotten a delay of game. The fact of the matter is I thought that the Redskins had an opportunity, and they failed to take advantage. J. Camman says, Bears have to learn how to run the football when they are ahead. I thought they kind of took away some of the creativeness late, and they just were looking to just not turn it over. They didn't want to be special late. They felt like they were in a position where the defense was playing exceptional, and they just needed to not turn it over anymore. They had already fumbled one on a run. They had already thrown 2 picks. At this point, they just wanted to be safe with the football because they knew at that point the only thing that was going to hurt them most likely was going to be a turnover. And so they were just looking to take care of the rock at that point. Kyle S. says, it seems like defenses have found a tell from Kirk Cousins' release with all the tip balls this year. As a Redskins fan, this was an issue while he was there as well. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I think that Kirk does a good job of delivering the football, but what he also does is telegraph where he's going with the football and when he's getting rid of it. He's one of those guys that likes to pat the football and he stares down his target. And you can kind of get a read on when he's going to release it. Kirk's not the biggest guy in the world. So if I know that I'm not getting there and I see you're about to release the football, I'm going to get my hands up. And Kirk was a guy that did have passes batted in Washington, not to the extent that he's got them batted this year. He set a career high this year for the number of passes he's had batted down to the line of scrimmage. But that's always been an issue for him, is him getting passes batted at the line of scrimmage. J. Camman says, where were so many good afternoon games with the Broncos and the Raiders tonight, yet the country got to watch a Saints blowout? I was hoping that they would send us elsewhere, but it seemed like all those other games started at 4:05, and that Saints-Eagles game started at 4:25. It was America's game of the week, so because it started so much later, the Raiders game finished a lot sooner, the Broncos game finished a lot sooner, and so they couldn't take us to some of the games that were a lot closer. We just had to stick around for the ass whooping. I wasn't complaining. I watched the Eagles get their brains bashed in and enjoyed every second of it. But I've been there before. That's the part that I had absolutely no empathy for them. I've been there, but I had no empathy for them. Take your ass whooping and on the chin and keep it moving. And I thought that's what they did. JP says, Eagles took an ass whooping of epic proportions today against the Saints. Reminds me of a certain week 4 Monday night game. Actually, that was week 5. But yes, I get your point, and I pretty much said the same thing. Lightly Phenomenon says, by the way, happy holidays, Lou, and enjoy your bye week. Hey, I appreciate that, bruh. Got one more game, though. Got the Monday night game, so I'm not done yet. But remember, for those of you in the winners and losers, those of you that want to play in the weekly pick'em, all of those things will still be available this week. That is not shut down, so make sure you get your picks in. If you're in a survivor pool, same thing. Get your picks in this week. Reese says, we allowed a 94.4 completion percentage to Eli today, Lou. That was the easiest game he ever played. Screw you, Dirt Cutter. Screw you. Hey, you asked for this, Ree. You asked for Dirt Cutter. You got it. So I'm not going to allow you off the hook. J. Camman says, 12,000 people weren't able to watch some football today in my town because a squirrel messed up the power lines and lost power. True story. Good thing Bills were on a bye. Yikes. That's crazy. That squirrel needs his ass beat. Okay? Not on a Sunday. You want to do that shit on a Tuesday? Knock yourself out. Not on a Sunday, squirrel. He deserves his ass to be beaten. Anyway. JP says, Lamar Jackson started today. What do you think? I didn't watch him. The man had 27 carries. Yikes! Zoink! Scoop! 27 carries for your quarterback. This is not Louisville. But they won, so I can't knock the hustle. J. Camman says, I have a bad feeling that the Packers could come around only because they apparently have I told you guys this last week. I said the Packers haven't played the Cardinals, the Jets, and all of these other teams that some of the teams in their division, like the Bears and the Vikings, have already gotten fat off of. They've still got them. I told you they didn't have Miami yet. Well, they played Miami, and they beat Miami now. Those games are coming for them down the pipeline. They're going to win games that some of these other teams have been able to feast off of. Those are coming for the Green Bay Packers, which is why I told you they're still not out of this thing quite yet. Double A says, Mac had a good game. He did. I'm not a Mac Alexander guy, but yeah, he did. Let's see. We got a couple more minutes. Let me skim through and see. JP says, with Thanksgiving approaching, are there any other dishes you like besides the yams, macaroni, and cheese? Of course. Stuffing is another top 3. If you give me 3 choices for Thanksgiving, it's my sweet potato casserole, which is yams, macaroni and cheese, and my stuffing. You put those 3 things in there, throw a little gravy on top. I'm good, bro. I usually those are the 3 items that are left the longest in terms of leftovers, and I will eat that shit for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. After most people can't stand Thanksgiving leftovers after a few days. I'm eating Thanksgiving leftovers for up to 2 or 3 weeks at a time, bro. As long as it lasts, as long as I got yams or mac and cheese, I'll continue to eat. Once those 2 items run out, or once those 2 items run out, then the stuffing becomes obsolete. The stuffing isn't good alone. It needs help. And if you give me yams or you give me mac and cheese to go with the stuffing, I'll continue to eat the shit as long as it exists. But normally the stuffing is the last thing to go, and generally it gets thrown away. There's probably a back corner that survives all the other dishes, and then that back corner just gets thrown away. You can't eat stuffing by itself. Anyway, let's see. Colts fan says, I told you we would get the dub against those Titans. I told you you were right, and I picked the Colts to win this game. You guys own the Tennessee Titans with Andrew Luck in the lineup, and I didn't expect a full out beating the way that it transpired, though. That was impressive, but Luck is playing at an MVP level. He's not playing at the same level, though, as a Drew Brees or a Patrick Mahomes. But you look at his numbers, and I'm not going to lie to you, Luck is up there in touchdown passes. I think he's among the best in the league this year in touchdown passes. He's not turning it over as much as he used to. Of course, the offensive line has been protecting him really well. Look out for the Indianapolis. Remember, I picked the Colts before this season started. Now, they got off to the 1-5 start. I looked foolish. I'd given up on them. They've run off 4 straight. They're back to 500. That division, I think the Texans can be had. Redskins played them today, had no business getting out of FedEx with a dub. The Texans can be caught and halked from behind. I'm not giving up on the Colts yet. Remember, I picked them to win the division. Everybody told me I was crazy. They're not dead yet. They are not dead yet. In any event, that's going to do it for your man, Louie T, man. You guys enjoy the rest of your night. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage that it could be. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. You guys, if I don't see you tomorrow, if we don't converse tomorrow, I don't know how we wouldn't, because that game is going to be epic. But if you can't make it, you got to work, whatever the case may be, may you and yours have the most blessed Thanksgiving humanly possible. Enjoy all of the F's, as I always tell you. And from me and mine to you and yours, happy Thanksgiving. See you guys later. Have a good one. Take care.
Louie T.